Welcome everybody to SEO Office Hours. My name is Michael Chidzey. I'm an SEO here at Good Signals, and part of what we do, along with special guests, are these office hour sessions where people can jump in and ask their questions around their website and web search. By the way, nobody here is in the hot seat and we might not know all the answers, but hopefully multiple people thinking about a problem should help. We've got loads and loads of questions submitted already right behind me. In fact, I think this is the most that we've had so far. But if anybody else would like to submit any questions, feel free to in the chat, and Joe will be monitoring. So Joe will pick them and say as we go. We've got with us, like always, Joe Juliana Turnbull, also known as SEO Joe Blogs. Hey, Joe.
Hello, Michael. Hello, everyone, and hello to our audience today: Sophie, Samantha, Chris, Josephine, and other people that haven't signed in yet. Thank you for joining us. Yes, we're very excited to be in our office hours today. I'm Joe Juliana Turnbull. I run a digital marketing consultancy business from Barcelona, and I work with small to large businesses with their marketing and SEO. And they also run two events, Search London and Search Barcelona. They're networking events for those in search. And actually, we have Search London 13th birthday coming up next year. And this is actually where I met Mike, and actually, I believe I met Kevin there as well. And I met Sarah at another event. So today I want to introduce our two great speakers, Kevin and Sarah. So Kevin's the founder and CEO of Resignal. They've won numerous awards in the UK, global, and also in Europe. I believe you guys are the best small SEO agency across those three different categories. But you can go into more detail later, Kevin. But I also want to say that Kevin, as well as running his own company, he also does SEO breakfasts with e-commerce, those in e-commerce roles in-house. And also he's run the London Marathon. So quite an achievement, really, Kevin. And Sarah has actually been working in SEO for over 10 years, and she's the SEO manager at Captivate, which is a podcast hosting platform. You'll have to tell us more about that, Sarah. And she and Tasman actually work on the SEO Mindset podcast. They talk about how to SEO optimize your career. And actually, they do live podcasts at Brighton SEO, and they will be there in April. So welcome, Kevin and Sarah, to the show today. Best podcast, Josephine says. Yes, it's a very good podcast.
Good morning.
Actually, it was the Brighton SEO ballot this week. And Sarah, you do a live version of your podcast at Brighton SEO.
Yes.
What's the difference between live and then just doing it as you normally do it?
Rather than recording in my bedroom, I get to record in front of an audience. So yeah, the word that I'm going to use is wholesome, because it's a really great event, because we get our audience to come on down. So it's always the night before Brighton SEO, and we pick a topic that's going to be on people's minds. So in the past, we've done how to deal with anxiety and imposter syndrome when at conferences. We've also done managing your energy levels. So we pick a topic that's going to be like on people's minds before a conference, and we just have a chat about it. So it's really open, transparent. And we teamed up with the Search with Candour podcast. So my good friend, Jack Chambers Ward. So me, Tasman and Jack take to the stage, and we just have a chat, and we record a podcast while being in front of an audience. And it also is live streamed onto YouTube as well, because we team up with an awesome company called Silicon Brighton, who help us with all the audio and all of that stuff. But I suppose the real key thing here is normally a podcast is one way, whereas in this instance, because the audience is there and we have microphones that we give out to the audience, they're asking the questions, they're even sharing their own experience and stories. So they're getting on the podcast, and then we publish it. Me, the SEO Mindset and Search with Candour, publish it on their feeds. So the audience gets to be part of it and behind the scenes as well. And we make a bit of an event of it. Yeah, we go, it's a lovely venue, projects in Brighton, and there's drinks and there's snacks as well. Obviously you have to eat the snacks before recording, because no rustling in the background. joking. But yeah, and each year we just look at how we can make more of an event and get people geared up because conferences, even if you're attending for the first time, if you're attending lots of times, it's still quite nerve-wracking, isn't it? So we just have a space where it's calm. You can come, have an open conversation, ask questions, and connect with people as well. So that's the spiel. What I'll do is, there's no landing page at the moment because it's not until April next year, but we've got a Google form. So I'll pop that in the chat. So if anyone's interested, they can just fill in their details. And then once we're like selling tickets, I say sell, they're free. But yeah, we'll message those people on our list. And I'll stop because I've blabbed on far too long.
Yeah, that's good. So I was just going to say also, Sarah, please also share the link to the SEO Mindset podcast that people can find out more information.
Yeah, and what we'll do is we'll put those links in the video description as well. So if anybody wants to apply from there. And then, Kevin, I actually came across the fact in a couple of months' time, you've got a conference at the Ham Yard Hotel, your e-commerce conference.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we ran it for the first time last year, which I think went very well. And it's 150 people. Great venue, the Ham Yard Hotel, for anyone that hasn't been there, in Piccadilly. And yeah, we're really excited about this. Last year we had a great speaker lineup and a keynote in Rory Sutherland. I think really blew people away. And this year we've got Holly Tucker, who's the founder of Not on the High Street, as our keynote, and some really good speakers lined up as well. So yeah, like our big event of the year. Yeah, we're working on that in the background at the moment. And then obviously that's 15th of March.
Cool. Yeah, it looks really good. And the other thing I was going to say is, Joe mentioned about the UK Search Awards. So we had Crystal on here last week from Wix, who was one of the judges. And you guys walked away with what, like 5-6 awards, something like that? That's amazing.
Yeah, I had a feeling that night that our luck was going to run out because we have had a good track record in the past, but we were shortlisted for 6 and we won all of them. Friday morning was quite painful, but it was a very good night.
Yeah, it's a good job you're not on here last Friday.
I think you asked me to do last Friday. I was like, that's not a good idea. One way or the other, it wouldn't have been a good idea. Yeah, in hindsight, I'm very glad we're doing this week.
So well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think we should, because we've got so many questions,
Yeah.
I think we should just crack on. And also, people, as I said, feel free to ask your questions in the chat. Also, I think it would be really nice if anybody else has other perspectives or anything, also feel free to put that in the chat as well, because that's been really useful. And Joe's going to be monitoring it. We'll read those out. Okay, question number 1. How important is it to have what you do in your website address? And this person's given 4 examples: cheapflights.co.uk, coffeedirect.co.uk, gohawaii.com, and Love Holidays. Joe, how do you fancy starting with this one?
I would say a long time ago, it was important. So I called my website SEO Joe Blogs and came up with that name as well. I think moving forward, of course, it's more important about what you actually have within your website. Sometimes with, I'll say, all the competition we've had, you can't necessarily get the domain that you want. So it's all about optimizing your website as much as possible, getting that visibility. Of course, where you can categorize your products or categorize your website accordingly. So obviously, if you're offering SEO services, you would still want to put that obviously under a category. If you're offering marketing or email marketing services, you'd want to put it under a category. I don't think it has as much of an importance as what it had ages and ages ago. And I think it would become more difficult if you were setting up a business like Cheap Flights now to try and find a domain that hasn't already been taken. But I'm also keen to hear from other people, because I don't want to use the expression, it depends.
I purposely asked you that question first because obviously you have got a website called SEO Joe Blogs, and you also have Search London and Search Barcelona and so on. So I thought we'd start there with you. Kevin, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, similar to Joe, my first agency was called SEO Optimized because I wanted to get SEO in the domain name, and I think it worked. We used to actually rank quite highly for SEO agency and stuff like that, but that's like 2006, so we're going back a bit now. And I think there's a place for it if you're maybe like a churn and burn affiliate marketer or something like that. Then like short to medium term, do it. But I would just always advocate building a brand. Imagine if Apple was called we sell laptops.com. So I'm sure that website probably exists, but I would imagine their stock price is a bit lower than Apple's. And it's build something that when you look at the brands that are the ones that are performing, their number one keyword in terms of both volume and conversion rate is a brand. So build something that you can build a brand around, own it. It has to be unique, because if it's not unique, then people won't find you. But I think that's the most important thing, is build something that has meaning to you and what you're doing, and then people buy into that. And by building a great company, you're building a great brand. By building a great brand, you'll get natural search volume, and then the organic non-branded search will come off the back of the fact that you've done all of that good stuff, rather than just trying to piggyback on a search term.
Yeah. Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, obviously, I agree 100% with what Joe and Kevin has said. And I just want to build on the brand sort of perspective, because actual fact, if you can go after like a name that's more memorable and makes you stand out and is eye-catching, that's only going to be better for you. And I think that's obviously, when it comes to like ranking and traffic and SEO, there's a lot more. There's a whole list, isn't there, of things that we should be doing. And yeah, like having it in your URL isn't as important as it was, because Google and search engines and algorithms have got more sophisticated. So I would definitely echo what has been said and focus on that brand. And if you can go for a name, go for a brand that makes you stand out, that makes you different from your competition. So for example, the company that I work for, Captivate, we're a podcast hosting platform, right? Captivate doesn't scream, we do podcast hosting, but it's a memorable brand. It's short, it's snappy, and people know us. So yeah, that's my 2 pence on the matter.
Oh. So it took me ages to think of our company name. We were called something totally different when I first started, and it was so random. We were called John Cabot. And the main reason for that is I basically didn't, so my school was called that, and there's an Explorer in Bristol that was called that, and I'm from Bristol. And so I just went with that. And it was quite funny, because I used to get people phone me all the time and say, can I speak to John? And John died like 500 years ago or something like that. So obviously they didn't know who that was. But it was, I just didn't want, when I was talking to people, I didn't want to say, hi, this is Mike from MikeChidzey.com or Mike Chidzey. So I went with something totally random and thought I'll change it at some point. And basically I went down the route of naming our company based on what we do. So we're called Good Signals, and that's basically, to me, that makes sense. But there's absolutely no search volume at all in Good Signals. It's just something we all say naturally. So I think that just felt like it could be a really nice brand name that we could build on. I still own a few websites actually that have that kind of perfect keyword domain. So we've got eventorganizer.com, some of those, but again, that isn't necessarily to rank for that term. I thought in an industry where you are called things like, that's for events, where you are called things like jelly and custard and stuff like that, I thought actually the way to stand out is to call yourself what you actually are. So yeah, anyway, cool. Great. Let's go to the next question. So this one, we were sent a URL. So it's halfpennylondon.com, which is a wedding website. Joe, would you mind putting it into the chat? Is that right?
Yeah,
okay.
This is a very good one.
Yeah. So this website ranks in the top organic listings for popular terms like wedding dress London. But there is no mention of this on the actual page. Why is it ranking? Kevin, are you all right if I start with you on this one?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I'm loading the page now so we can see it. There's a story I want to tell, because obviously I can't tell you the answer within 2 seconds of looking at the web page, but it's a story around, I helped consulting for a non-exec advisor within Resignal, and he basically ran an interior design agency with his wife and came to me asking, okay, how do we rank higher for interior design agency? And I looked at what they were doing. I gave them loads of recommendations, like any SEO would, title tag, heading, have more text on the page, etc., etc. Let's make this I don't know, like checkbox 101 SEO perfect scored web page, if you like. So he went away, changed it, thought I was very smart in terms of making those recommendations, and they completely tanked. So they went from, I think they were trying to get from page 2 to page 1. I think they went from page 2 to page 8 or something. It's like really bizarre. And then I was like, okay, let's have a look at what's on the web pages for the brands that are ranking. because everything's relative and it's all about user experience and actually how people interact with that page. And what I found was, okay, this is really annoying because all of these pages, they're not very well optimized. They're slow in terms of page speed. They barely even have a header or text on the page. It's just like big images. That makes no sense. And then I started to switch my mindset from an SEO perspective to a customer perspective. And from a customer perspective, if you're looking for an interior design agency, you want to see stunning imagery that is like, oh, wow, I love that house. I want to sit on that sofa. That swimming pool's amazing. I want to jump into it. That's what gets you the experience. And I think having spoken to quite a lot of kind of like ex-Google engineers, I know they talk quite a lot about the performance of that page and how that relates to a user journey and a search journey. So if you visit a web page and you bounce back and you click another search listing, then that's much more likely to be a signal to Google that, okay, your website didn't serve the purpose of that searcher. So that's negative. We're going to bump you down. If it's the opposite and you've got a positive experience, we're going to upgrade you and bump you up. So it becomes much more about actually what's on that page and how are you performing to the user. If it's the last visit in that searcher journey, or they haven't gone away and refined their query, Google then gets that signal that, okay, you've done a job. It's certainly if they've made an inquiry or a call to action off the end of it, that's a great result. Let's reward that more often. And that really changed my mindset behind how you do SEO, specifically based on your competition, because you need to be the best answer to that person making the query, and it's matching the intent of the search query with the page that you've got. It's not necessarily, is it optimized, that checkbox SEO? I think it can take you so far, but if everyone's doing it, best practice becomes average. So actually, it's much more about how do you understand your customer? And if you understand the customer, and frankly, if you're converting your customer, then you're doing pretty well. But equally, I think if you're doing, that's what gets rewarded in Google. So without making too many assumptions on halfpenny London, that would be my starting point. Actually look at what ranks for those terms, and is there something that you're missing by maybe focusing too much in a SEO box as opposed to looking at that through a customer lens?
Good answer.
Yeah, really good answer. Joe, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that's you summed it very well, Kevin. And I think we do need to actually make sure that we are looking at the user experience and look at obviously not just the copy, but yeah, what does that website offer? So if it is around interior designs or if it's about wedding dresses, if they've got stunning imagery, then that might be something that is attracting the users. Just out of curiosity for me, if I wanted to try and rank quite well, I would probably look and see where they're getting their exposure from. So do a backlink analysis, use different tools and see where they've got that from. Because if you've got exposure, that actually helps to drive more brand awareness, and then people know about you and then come to your site. So that would be the other element that I'd probably look at.
Sarah, did you want to add anything?
I completely agree with the viewpoints of Kevin and Joe on this, because it can be frustrating when you see a website or a competitor that's ranking better than you, and you look at all the SEO fundamentals and you're like, what? We're much better. But I think a big thing is what we've got to remember is Google, it has customers at the end of the day, and that's the users. So user experience is always going to be really important, and knowing what a user is expecting to see and stuff. So yeah, there's always going to be a reason why it's not just going to be SEO fundamentals that gets you ranking. You've got to have a look and see what it is. And yeah, have the recommendations of Kevin and Joe, have a look into that as well. But there will be a reason. You just need to dig into it and find out why. But yeah, like it can be a bit of a head scratcher, and you can want to bury your head sometimes. But yeah, I haven't got anything else to add, but just, yeah, cheerleading what Joe and Kevin has said.
I just want to say one thing first from our chat. So thanks, Chris, for jumping in he's talked about UX, user experience, and understanding a bit more about proper image optimization. So what Kevin had mentioned earlier. So obviously great looking images that are quite quick to load. So thank you for your input, Chris.
Yeah. The only thing I would add is I'm on the page now, Halfpenny London. And despite the fact that they're not using that particular keyword, if you go on that page, it's very obvious that they sell wedding dresses. Like within less than half a second, you can work that out from the video at the very top and some of the other terms used. So I think maybe that this person also might be, sometimes you can get obsessed with particular search terms. And I've done that before, but I think it is very obvious that this is about wedding dresses without needing to throw the keywords all over the site. Great. Okay. Next one. Oh gosh, we've got so many to get through. We might have to have a few quickfire at some point, but this, to be honest, this is a quickfire one. And Sarah, I'm going to start with you on this one because it feels like this is your area. Is SEO for podcasting a thing? Do you need to take a different approach to the various platforms such as Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple?
100% SEO for podcasts is a thing, and I kind of need to I don't know what I'm doing with my hands here, doing a good crab impression.
It's good, it keeps people in the video.
But I'm going to split this out into answering it in two sort of sections, because when we think of SEO and optimization, you've got Google and search engines, and you've also got the apps that you spoke about, like your Spotify, your Apple. So what I'd like to start with is, when it comes to having a podcast, you have to think of discoverability, okay? And there's lots of different ways that people can come across a podcast. And not everyone is going to come across a podcast by going to Spotify, Apple. Do you know what I mean? Not everyone will come across a podcast that way. There's lots of different ways that you can get your name and brand out there. Yes, it's important to look at the apps and optimize it yourself there, but look at other ways that you can reach out. And when you're looking at those other ways, this is where it's really important to understand who your podcast avatar is. So your ideal audience, who are they? Where are they? What are they doing? Because maybe you can reach a new audience on social media. Maybe you can reach a new audience through Google and search engines. One big key advice that I always give to podcasters is you need to have a podcast website anyway. If you don't, that's on top of your agenda. When you are planning your podcast and your episodes, use a keyword research tool. Don't just have it on gut feeling of what you're going to be talking about. Find out what's important, what topics are trending. Google Trends is a great resource. Put in a topic, find out what is trending and what people are caring about, and use a keyword research tool, get into an SEO mind and help yourself plan out your episodes. Because also, if you're using a keyword research tool and you're exploring a topic, you'll uncover other subjects and topics that you probably were aware of, sort of thing. So but what I would also recommend is repurposing your podcast episodes. So what you should be doing from an accessibility point of view anyway is transcribing your podcasts. So having the text version of your audio. This is important from accessibility reasons, because not everyone can listen to a podcast. But obviously, if you've got a transcript on your episode page, that's only going to help Google understand what that page is about, what that episode is about. So then it can rank you for terms that are relevant to that. But take that transcript and repurpose it into a blog. And then what you can do is, obviously, you can't just copy and paste that transcript as a blog. Structure it right, give it a heading, give it subheadings, structure it properly, and then embed the episode on top of the page, because then this helps with discoverability, what I was talking about earlier. So someone comes across that blog when they're searching for whatever they're searching for in Google. They come across your blog, but they see at the top, oh, actual fact, this is a podcast, this is an episode. And I prefer consuming content by listening to it. So you've got someone who wasn't prepared they weren't even thinking about listening to a podcast. Do you know what I mean? But because you've given them the content and you've given them a blog, but actually been like, here's another, like, it is a podcast, listen to it, you're boosting your discoverability. So that's that side of things. So thinking about how you can optimize and boost discoverability from a search engine and SEO, Google perspective. But then when it comes to Apple and Spotify, obviously there's things that you can do there. Things that I would recommend doing is your show notes. So make sure that you are optimizing and making use of those show notes. So making it clear what that episode is about, get some keywords in there. Obviously don't keyword stuff. You still need it to be, it needs to make sense. You want to entice people to listen to that episode. What you can do as well is don't start, so in your show notes, don't start a sentence in this week's episode, because when episodes are shown in the apps, some things are truncated. So you're much better thinking, okay, you don't want people to see in this week's episode, you want to get straight to what is in that episode, what is being talked about. Yeah, doing category, so make sure that you're podcasting in the right category, and you can have subcategories as well. There's other things that you can think about. Your podcast artwork, so obviously you need to stand out from your competition, so make sure less is more with your artwork on the podcast apps. So make it really clear what your podcast is about. Make your title, because sometimes your podcast artworks can be really small, so it needs to be scannable. Okay, so it needs to be eye-catching and scannable, stuff like that. Has that answered the question? I've realized that I've blabbed, I could go on about this subject because it's a hard thing to answer, because there's
I think basically the answer is yes, and so much more than just those platforms by the sounds of it from what you said, and all those tips are super helpful, I think. Amazing. Joe or Kevin, would you like to add anything?
If anybody wants to get hold of Sarah can answer your questions.
Yes, I love talking about podcasting, and I feel like it's a really untouched, like SEO podcasting. I went to a podcasting conference and there was a term, what do they call it? App optimization. So yeah, it's a whole thing, and it's really exciting because there's a lot of untapped opportunity that you can do with a podcast from an SEO perspective as well. So yeah, come and talk to me.
Next question, again, another quite broad one. Kevin, if it's all right, we'll start with you on this one. So this company, they are a virtual conference platform. And so a few years ago during COVID, we were ranking really well for broad conference related terms. Obviously, the market has changed. And ever since, our organic traffic has just been in decline. Making the website better hasn't made a difference whatsoever. Any ideas?
I think there's a few points maybe covered a bit earlier in terms of user experience. Try and put the customer at the heart of what you're doing, and making sure that what your content is aimed towards doing, it's working. So maybe have a look at, if you've got content that isn't performing well for you, maybe it's got a high bounce rate, or it's just not converting in the way that you want it to be. It doesn't have to be like an end conversion. If it's an article, for example, it could be a micro conversion in the sense of sign up for an email list or something like that. But try and understand how well that's content's working for you. I also think just in general for SEO, you're in a position where you're either market leader or you're chasing someone. And I think there's two different strategies behind that. I think if you're market leader, you want to stay ahead of the game and try new things. It's probably much more about how do you continue to build your brand awareness and content, and maybe like top of funnel, that side of things. If you're chasing someone, there's, I don't know, I feel like an underrated tactic that people don't like to say is copy the winner and figure out what they're doing. Yeah. Understand in terms of, have your scorecards, how well are they doing in terms of technical SEO performance, what type of content do they have, how's that working for them, what's their brand reputation, what's their link reputation, how does that stack up against you? And if there's any kind of glaring obvious gaps there, then that might be something to focus on. But that's what I would do. Don't just look at the winner, look at like the leaders in general and try and build some averages, because that could be a way just to figure out, yeah, is there a gap that you need to strengthen in comparison to that? But yeah, otherwise, sometimes it's you've done something wrong. Sometimes that I think potentially is more common is Google have changed things, sometimes not always for the better. And we've certainly seen with clients earlier in the year, instances of rankings declining that have then come back stronger than ever from the next update. So sometimes you need an element of patience as well. If you're doing the right thing, it doesn't always pay off immediately. But yeah, try and make sure you're doing the right thing first and foremost. And that comes with research and analysis.
Yeah. Joe, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Kevin actually summed it up quite well. And I know we've got loads of questions, but I just wanted to say in here at this point, if anybody would like to take part in SEO office hours or ask questions, please do sign up to Good Signals /SEO office hours. I'll put the link in the chat. We're going to have more of these over the next few weeks. So we'll have different sessions. If you actually have specific questions about different elements of SEO, GA4, tech SEO, please email us. That's all I want to say.
Very well, best. Sarah, did you have anything to add to that question?
Anything that I would add is do a technical audit of your website, see if there's anything going wrong there. Maybe there's some indexation issues. Maybe there's been a change that's happened on the website that you're not aware of. That happens all the time, doesn't it? That changes happen and you only find out when you have a traffic drop like this or things happen. So there's always going to be a reason, isn't there? So yeah, do everything that Kevin suggested, but always technical foundations. What's going on there? Have a look, have a bit of a dig around and see if you can see anything suspicious, something going on. Yeah. And also have a look at the most recent algorithm updates and what they focused on and stuff like that. Yeah.
And I would just add that also, I think sometimes there are just things totally out of your control. So obviously they're a virtual conference platform, and more like I know quite a lot of people in the events industry, and they're getting busier because confidence is coming back in face-to-face events and so on. So I think sometimes it's just the case of there isn't, say, necessarily the demand or search intent has changed, and therefore people don't just want virtual platforms. They want to actually meet people in real life, and then all of a sudden you go from competing against other virtual conference platforms to effectively venues and event organizers and so on, because that's, we'll come back there. But in terms of how search intent has changed, one of my favorite things I noticed earlier on in the year was that for the term flowers, so that obviously around Valentine's Day, you would expect the sort of flower delivery companies and so on to be ranking, and that's when they make their money, and that's when they get all their organic traffic. And something we noticed this year, that for the term flowers, Miley Cyrus released flowers in January, just before Valentine's Day. And so actually the search results changed because that's what people wanted to see the video and so on. And I thought that was really fascinating. So just sometimes things happen outside your control, and it might be a case of either developing the business to look and see, can you start offering advice, whatever, in the other stuff that people are looking for, or do you really niche down and just try and get the most of what you've got in your industry? Cool.
I just want to say, while I might get another question, I just want to say on that, actually, it just shows the impact of what's happening in the world, and it can affect obviously your product. So really keep an eye out on Google Trends. It is still good, and it can help you actually, if you're selling different products, or that there is a product interest growing because of what's happening in the environment, that perhaps that might give you inspiration to branch out into that. This is more for e-commerce or maybe consultancy, different services, not necessarily if you already have a online video platform. So just be aware of Google Trends and the fact that depending on the country you're in, that can change.
Yeah. And I like the chase the winner as well. I think learning from the search results and seeing who's getting all that traffic. Yeah, that's really good. Okay, next one. Hopefully, we've got no quick fire ones, but we'll try and make them a little bit quick fire. Okay, so this one, in Google Search Console, I have a blog post that has been crawled but not indexed. Why is that? Who would like to tackle this one? Joe, Kevin, do you want to have a go first?
I'm going to say, I would look within Google Search Console. Actually, it will say why it's not indexed. So look at those messages first.
I had an issue in Google Search Console where there was some URLs not being indexed because Google was selecting another canonical. And what had happened was, once I've done some digging and I knew what the issue was, I was like, okay, what was going on? And it was because we'd done some recategorization of the URLs. So when the page first was live, it didn't have a category. it was just domain and then the page. Whereas from a structure and a tracking perspective, we wanted to add a category. So it was domain, category, and then the page. And then what had happened was Google, even though that old page was 404 and it didn't exist, Google was still selecting that as the canonical. I am saying that word right, aren't I? Yeah. There's a lot of SEO lingo, and it's just, I'm not the greatest with words. So I always say the wrong thing. But canonical. Yeah. So basically what we did there was, once I figured out, oh, it's because they're thinking that the old page is the right canonical, we just redirected to the new one, and it seemed to sort out the situation. So like Joe said, Google Search Console will always give you a reason, and then you just need to do a bit of digging. So ask a web developer, see what changes have happened on your site and stuff.
Yeah. I think more people have seen an increase in that stuff since using AI tools. That's what I've noticed whenever I've seen something like this. And Joe's right, Google Search Console is really good. It will often tell you why, but it's usually those pages where they're not unique, where somebody's just used one of the tools to create something, or yeah, Sarah, it could be something down to like maybe it's a canonical in place and a different page is actually being picked because they're quite similar. Kevin, if you've got anything to add, or are you ready for the next one?
I think it's one of those that always needs a bit more digging in. Try not to say it depends, but I think in terms of where is it positioned in the site? Does it need more links pointing at it? Because it's obviously getting indexed. It's just trying to get it to rank, trying to give it a bit more weight. But yeah, there's so many different scenarios and circumstances that have happened in terms of, whether I've seen stuff that feels like it's getting crawled, but it's not getting indexed. And equally, it might be getting crawled and indexed, but still not ranking. And it really is like just head down, try a few things and try to unpick it. And it's not always an easy solution, but the more that you look into various different things, and I've certainly tried things before where there's like a series of article pages that were not getting indexed, for example, that we moved to a separate location and then managed to get them indexed and then unpicked, okay, why didn't it get indexed previously in a separate subfolder, and like stuff like that you can't always get your head around at first until you just try a few new things.
It can also take some time as well, can't it? So maybe, I don't know what the time period here is either. Like, I don't know if it's a recent page that has been added and this is a recent thing, but yeah, there is a bit of waiting as well. That's not a great answer, I know, but things take time sometimes, doesn't it?
Patience is virtual.
I think, and just on what everyone's basically said, is the more context we get, the better. So if anyone has questions like this in the future, if you can give us URLs, that's really helpful because we can have a quick look beforehand. And then Kevin was saying, otherwise we end up saying it depends and coming up with loads of different things. But I'm sure that's going to be really helpful for people that's in the situation. Okay, next question. Talking of canonicals, look at that segue. It's like we've been doing this for years. This question is, if migrating to a new domain, why would I 301 and not just use the rel canonical tag until the rankings have moved over? Who wants to have a go at tackling that one first? Just before, in terms of, just in case there's anybody who's watching this that doesn't know what rel canonical is, just because we've mentioned it quite a few times now, it's basically an SEO tag where you might have multiple pages that are very similar content. You put this tag across those pages, and so a user still sees those pages, but effectively a search engine, when it crawls, it understands that although there are lots of them, it passes all that value to one of them, and it's usually the original one. Often used when you have things like, say, a department store, and you might have something like a mug that could go in several different, like the product, a mug could go in several different places, such as crockery, kitchen, whatever. And effectively, instead of having all those pages competing and being duplicate content, you have that tag on there to say that this is the one that we want to rank from a search perspective. Cool. So why would we 301 redirect the old site to the new one and not just use the rel canonical tag? Who wants to tackle this one? Kevin, are you okay? Oh, Sarah, sorry, you put your hand up.
Oh, it's like I'm in school, aren't I? So is there a thing so if there's any links to a page, if you've got a 301 in place rather than a rel canonical, does it pass the authority better? Or does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does make sense. I think it's one of those things that you never actually know any of this. But from experience, it feels like a 301 redirect and then being able to make the change in Google Search Console is a better signal than basically having two websites running at once and potentially two CMSs, using two customer platforms and all of that sort of stuff. And also there's obviously a reason why you're changing in the first place. So I think it is one of those, it depends. Kevin, you might have a better answer than me on that one.
No, I think I agree with you both in the sense of my understanding is if you want to rebrand, for example, and change the domain name, then what you would want to give Google is a single website that has consolidated equity within that site structure and pages, and rather than a canonical, which is intended more for having a legitimate reason, having two pages or even websites side by side. And then there might be reasons for that. But if the permanent change is to move and basically do a lift and shift from one to the other, then I think my understanding, at least, and I know sometimes these things do change, is it would be better to say, okay, we're moving over and it's a 301. You will always expect in any migration that there'll be a dip because Google isn't going to say, okay, that's fine, we've picked up everything that's new and we've got rid of everything that's old. That takes time to pick it all up. Sometimes you might get issues of some pages that perhaps a bit orphaned and they're just not getting redirected and picked up that you might want to more manually force. But I think as a general rule, I would probably go 301 to redirect the site and then unpick anything that hasn't quite worked successfully or in the time frame that you would have liked outside of that, rather than having two sites run side by side. I'm sure there's exceptions to that rule though. And yeah.
Yeah, we like that. And thank you. I thank everyone to our speakers for answering their questions. If you are watching on the YouTube, remember to like our video and also subscribe to the Good Signals, the YouTube channel.
You're very, very good, Joe. Just on one thing that I get from this question actually is it sounds like this person isn't that confident and they're trying to think of. So Chris has said in the chat about how canonical is about prioritizing pages, but redirect is direction for the intended pages. It feels like they're trying to come up with a way to make to prevent something from going wrong, and there's obviously a confidence thing there. And I would almost suggest that they just possibly need to take the time to plan everything out properly. So rather than thinking of a hack around where you do a rel canonical and have these two websites there at the same time, potentially even try and 301 redirect part of the site initially if they're worried about that, and just make sure that they can roll back. So rather than thinking if the rel canonical doesn't work and that feels like a safer option, rather than thinking about it like that, I would have a rollback plan in place. But yeah, Chris has said the shortest solution is planning it properly, which I totally agree with. Cool. Okay, next question. I'm going to take a few of them because I'm going to try and because we've got 10 minutes left, and we've
10 minutes left.
Over halfway in terms of the question, so we might just have to save some for next week. Okay. So this person is planning to start a business. It's an exercise class aimed at mums and kids. Oh, nice. Where can I learn about SEO? Obviously, there's SEO office hours, so feel free to ask your questions. But in terms of everybody on the call, how did you learn SEO? When you have new staff or anything like that, where do you point them?
I think I'm still learning.
Yeah, I'm still learning. I learned it on the job, and that's also why I set up Search London, or I took it over from Judith Lewis, because I wanted to have a platform and a place where people could actually learn about SEO in a judgment-free and stress-free environment. So I really say Advance is where I learned it. But now, of course, there's a lot of courses. Blue Array Technical SEO course. There's Moz has a course. They had one for a while. There's also courses that other people are doing about digital, about sort of companies, people that are SaaS, that are selling SaaS platforms or SEO tools. They also have their own, like SEMrush have an academy. So they're Ahrefs. You can learn a lot also from their blog too. Events, courses that other agencies are doing and SaaS platforms, and also learn from blogs reading around the subject.
Yeah. Kevin?
I feel like I'm going to be showing my age now, but probably from Aaron Wall's SEO book. We used to make a copy of that. We used to print a copy, which sounds quite bad now, actually. It's massive. But for all of our team to come into the office, their first week was essentially, that was like the Bible of SEO. Let's go through that and read it. I got involved in 2003, and back then I remember ran Fishkin's blog posts on, it'd been SEO mods back then. Every one I would have read, because it's okay, this guy knows what he's doing, and the likes of Search Engine Watch back then as well. But ultimately, the biggest thing that I found helped me learn was having my own affiliate sites, and then test, learn, experiment. Yeah, and I think that sort of thing. I think Chris put something in the chat along the lines of blood, sweat, and tears. That's the answer. If you have to learn and improve and make mistakes, and then figure out what works for you. And I think SEO has always been about that for me. It's and like all of the answers, you have to stay humble. You have to admit that you don't know everything, because who does know everything? If you do, it changes tomorrow anyway. So you're already out of date. So I think having that attitude of we're constantly evolving, learning, improving, and making mistakes along the way to figure out both what works and what doesn't work has to be the way to do it.
Yeah. Have you, just out of interest, obviously there's the Resignal website, and then you've got clients' websites. Do you still have these kind of affiliate sites or things that you can go and test things on?
We used to. We test a few things on our own site occasionally, but what we found is the problem is clients take up 99.7% of the time, and actually side projects and stuff like that, sometimes it's useful to experiment on, and I have found it's good in the past, certainly in terms of testing the thresholds of what can you certainly in the older days, what can you get away with Google. The only site I've ever got banned is one of my own affiliate sites, which I'm actually quite proud of, because then it's like you test where the boundaries are, and then I got it unbanned, the penalty lifted. But testing stuff like that, I found really good fun, of just knowing what to do and knowing, okay, what can we do for clients? It's within the guidelines, and
you can share that.
Where is a step too far?
You can share that with us another time. That would be very interesting to know.
Yeah.
How did you get
Yeah,
banned, and how did you get unbanned?
Yeah, exactly.
And what about you, Sarah? How did you learn? What was your what's helped you get to where you are?
So echoing a lot what's already been said, like testing, blood, sweat and tears. Sounds a bit dramatic. But yeah, trying stuff out for yourself, and all the great resources that Joe has said. Something that I would urge people to do as well is join communities. So for example, me and Joe are part of Women in Tech SEO community, but there's going to be loads of communities out there. And it's just speaking from the Women in Tech SEO community, it's just such a supportive and lovely environment where you can ask questions. And I think there's even a rule that you can't start a question with, I know this is stupid, but, because there are no stupid questions. When we're learning, we don't know stuff. Also, I want to urge people it's okay not to know, and it's okay to ask questions. So when I first started in SEO, I thought, because I was hired as the SEO, I had to know stuff. And I felt, I don't know, that if I had to ask a question, that somehow I had failed somehow. But you need to get out of that mindset, because SEO, it's humongous. There's so much. And the fact that you can focus in on just different aspects of SEO just goes to show how mammoth this whole thing is. So of course you're not going to know everything. And also, if you haven't had experience in something, how do you know how to fix something? Do you know what I mean? Like when something comes up for the first time, or you come across an issue that you've never faced before, of course you need to go and ask for help, because you don't know until you've had that experience. So just be kinder to yourself. And something that I always say is, if you wouldn't say something to a friend or family member, don't say it to yourself, right? And I'm going off on a bit of a tangent as well, but it is related to learning and stuff. But something that me and Tasman always urge is for people to have a win jar. Yeah. So I think in the industry, you can end up comparing yourself to a lot of different people, or being like, oh, I'm not as good as this person because they're doing X, Y, and Z. And we forget about all the wonderful stuff that we have done, and all the little wins and the big wins that we had. So get yourself a win jar. It's a clear jar. And every time you've done a win, scribble it down on a piece of paper, fold it up, put it in the win jar. And then over the months, you can see how awesome you are, because all these wins are growing, they're growing and growing. If you're having a down day, pick a random win out your jar, read it, and get loving yourself again. So there you go. Sorry, I went off on a massive tangent then, but there you go.
That's really good. I would echo everything everyone said. I've always built websites and just had a play basically and ruin them and all that sort of stuff just to learn. And I would say, basically for me, I would say my failures I've probably learned way more from. So when I test the boundaries, whereas if you're always successful at things, I find that although your ego might grow, actually you don't necessarily learn as much. And so when in the past, when I have been through really tough times in terms of maybe one of my sites, maybe it's been hit by a core update, or back in the day it could have gone through like a reconsideration request, all of those kind of things. It really makes you better at what you do. I think also just learning from competitors and just websites that you really admire. So I like to, a thing that I like to do is just see what others are doing. I remember even actually, Kevin, when you started Resignal, I remember like following what you were doing in terms of setting up your website and all of that. And I often do that with most people in our industry. I like to see, what are they blogging about? What are they doing? And that I always find makes me better. And just learning from the search results. I feel like we've got 2 minutes.
Yes, just want to say thanks also to Chris for your input there, saying that every SEO has a unique approach. It's research and trial, and basically SEO is a marathon. So thank you very much for our audience for being with us today and taking part. And we will be back again next week. But we have another question, Mike.
Yes,
over to you.
I'm going to pick one more. It's got all of these. We didn't even get halfway through the questions, but that doesn't matter. It's good. It's been really helpful, I think. Okay, so this is, we'll try and do it as a quick fire one. Is it important to have a clear H1 at the top of a page? Skyscanner, on the Skyscanner homepage, they've given us a couple of links, but for example, Skyscanner, they have their H1 in the footer, and then Kayak is very subtle. There are lots of larger titles and so on. Any thoughts? As the last question, Kevin, are you all right to start?
Honestly, I'd love to phone a friend right now and ask Will Critchlow, because I know he tests loads of stuff like this. And I think that the answer is test it. In theory, the SEO, again, 101 answer is you should have a H1 heading, and that should be towards like a buffer fold at the top of the page. But test what works, figure out how it's performing, and if it makes a difference. Sometimes it doesn't make a difference at all, and that might be your finding. But
Perfect.
Test, learn, experiment.
And they, on Search Pilot's website, that's where Will Critchlow's from, they obviously have loads of case studies and blog posts and examples of literally tests like this. So
they're very good for stuff like that.
That's great.
To look. Has anybody else got something on that question before we finish?
Let's go to the next one.
Thank you so much. It's been such an awesome office hours. Apologies that I've been so rubbish at chairing, directing, or whatever. We only, like I said, hardly got through any of the questions, but I promise we'll move them over to next week, the ones that we didn't get through.
It was good. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mike, Sarah, and Kevin for joining us, and for all your insights, and to our audience for joining us today.
Great. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you much.